Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Taste of Training. I am delighted to be back with you to give you an update on the latest news in the financial markets. It varies enormously depending on the sizes. Statement by Donald Trump. And we had a very good example of that yesterday. I'll show you right away. We're going to start again because it's most impressive because of the oil. So we had a tremendous price increase. Oil up 30% due to weekend events. We almost reached $120. And then there was a slow wave of decline and a huge acceleration. From the moment Donald Trump spoke, basically what he said was, to simplify, the war will be short, we'll crush our enemy. We are well aware of what's happening with the Strait of Hormuz, and we will. We are not going to leave the situation as it is. France is also talking about carrying out a defensive operation. When things cool down, I quote, the President of the French Republic, so basically when there are no more missiles flying back and forth, France will intervene to facilitate movement. In the Strait of Hormuz, well, if there are no more missiles flying around, maybe there won't be any need for France in that case either. And this speech was very reassuring for the markets. And we can see it here. Oil prices have completely collapsed. So we've gone from about $120 to around $90. But be careful. If refineries are hit again, that could be a problem. But actually, for now, if you look closely, that's not the case. Refineries are not the priority. I told you yesterday, and it was confirmed. The United States gave Israel a bit of a slap on the wrist, saying, be careful, don't do that again, especially since, let's be very clear, if they really wanted to block Iran's oil, they have a target. A tiny island in the Strait of Hormuz, which handles 90% of Iran's oil exports. That's where the supertankers fill up. All they have to do is wipe out that island. There's no air defense, nothing. And there would be no Iranian oil exports at all for probably several months. They haven't touched it at all. And I'll bet you not a single bomb will fall. On that Iranian terminal, isolated on a small island, they won't touch it. There's also pressure from China because it's vital for China, the shipping lanes. So in the end, we find ourselves in a situation that's actually a lot less alarming than what they've tried to sell us, tried to make us believe in all the media. China, the United States, the European Union, all the Gulf countries are moving in the same direction, and so are the Iranians, because they could have sabotaged their own terminal themselves too. Let's not tempt fate. Oil will continue, even after this war, which will end one day, to flow freely. So keep that in mind. I often talk to you about the media trying to make people anxious. If you watched the 24-hour news channels yesterday morning, the NASDAQ was down 1.5% at the open. It was like the end of the world. Who do they take us for? Yeah, that's exactly how they see us, like fools. There you go, a 1.5% drop at the market open. That's something completely normal. It happens every day, every single day. But since 99% of people aren't interested in the stock market or have absolutely no real trading experience, so people believe it like, wow, the market opened sharply. The stock market is down sharply. We were close to a crash yesterday, just so you know. I even heard it again this morning with a 1.5% drop. Ridiculous, yes sir. So let's take a look at the crash we supposedly had on the NASDAQ, for example. Well, where is it? It's at its highest point. We went from 24,000 to 25,000 points. It gained 1,000 points in a straight line. So we had a huge rebound. I talked about it at 24,000, but unfortunately that was between midnight and 2 in the morning when we hit those levels. I didn't take a position, even though at those 1,000 point levels I always do. Oh well, too bad for me. A 1,000 point rise. So yesterday was... It was a bullish bulldozer and a huge surge when Donald Trump spoke, and that pushed the NASDAQ 100 from 24,000 to 25,000, up 1,000 points. It gained more than 4% from its lowest point. You don't see that every day. It was really a massive move. I would even say a show of confidence from the markets in the continuation of things. If we take a little step back, the 25,000 point level was something we had worked around quite a bit before all the events we're currently experiencing. It was an important level in November, it was the low point in December, and so on. So it's a solid level. We're back to manageable zones. That doesn't mean we won't see another wave of decline. It'll depend on the bondings, but all things considered, it's still a bit better. I'll put the charts back up for you. It'll be easier to follow. So 24,000 points, the annual low. Exactly, the perfect algorithm. We've climbed back up to 25,000 points, so everything is going really well and we're all picking up indices again. The Dow Jones is rebounded, but it's blocked by its middle, the monthly Asia level. It has actually retraced almost 50% of its decline. The S&P 500 has also rebounded nicely and is stabilizing around 6,800 points. And as I told you before, it's all about tech, and you can really see it. The difference in all the momentum was clear. It was in the NASDAQ stocks, while for European stocks, the CAC 40 is coming back into contact with the highs. Once again, that's no coincidence. I'm not going to go over the explanation about the 8,000 points again. I've been telling you about it for almost 2 months now. On the DAX 40, above 23,500, we're off to a good start again. Every one of the major indices is currently positioned at key levels. They're even trading well above them now. There's hope that the crisis, the war, will be resolved more quickly than we think. In any case, Donald Trump keeps insisting on it. Apparently, it will be a matter of days or weeks, let's say more like weeks rather than months. We're already seeing cracks in the Iranian government, since for the first time 24 hours ago there was an extremely firm Revolutionary Guard saying negotiations were out of the question. And then, last night, a few Iranian diplomats said they'd like to consider a ceasefire. That's the opposite. So we're starting to see a bit of some doubts, at least on the Iranian side. Of course, they put on a brave face, saying they can hold out for years and years. But after just 10, 11 days, we already have people calling for a ceasefire. Give it another 15 days and there will be many more calling for a ceasefire, maybe even considering a real diplomatic solution. So we can see that things are moving along pretty well, depending on which side you're on. If you're a civilian in Iran, no matter what happens, things are badly. And then in Lebanon, the usual scenario. Sahal controls the ground, Hezbollah fires off a few rockets as best they can, and there are massive decapitation strikes, meaning strikes targeting Hezbollah leaders in Lebanon. They're going to try to stress us out all day again, but there's nothing particularly serious going on. Let's look at gold. Gold is staying within its range. There you go. That proves to us that there's absolutely no anxiety at all. It's exactly within its range. Bitcoin has come back up to $70,000. So probably some influencer promised that if Bitcoin went back to $100,000 and showed the usual kind of technical advertising hype, and we've seen the collapse in the price of a barrel of oil. So that doesn't stop you from finding diesel at €2.20 to €2.50 at some stations, which in my opinion anticipated the situation. It's a very good anticipation in any case, but the price will go down much more slowly than it went up, as usual. With that, listen, I wish you an excellent day, and I'll see you tomorrow for the Good Morning Trading. And there you have it. We're living in a world. Ultimately, in stock market terms, things are relatively calm. After hitting a low point, the indices are starting to rise again. So we're back to the AMLO levels from last November and December. That was about 3 months ago, more or less, so everything's fine. Madame la Marquise, with that, I send you my regards. Ciao.